The moment I stepped off the creaking ferry onto the weathered dock of the island, a chill crawled down my spine, and not just from the crisp sea breeze. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, as if the very land held its breath in anticipation. I adjusted my collar against the cool air, clutching the worn leather bag that contained my clerical vestments and a few personal mementos. I had been sent here, to this secluded place, to assist in what had been described as a crisis of demonic possessions. Yet, as I took my first steps onto the cobbled streets of the village, I felt the weight of something ancient and foreboding pressing down on me. A group of locals stood clustered near the square, their wary gazes locking onto me like arrows. I offered a polite nod, trying to break the ice, but their expressions remained a mixture of suspicion and fear. "Father Michael," I introduced myself, my voice steady but soft, hoping to bridge the gap. "I've come to help." "Help?" One of the older men scoffed, his voice rough like the weathered stone of the island's cliffs. "What can you do that we haven't already tried?" I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their skepticism. "I understand there's been a series of troubling events. I want to listen, to understand." As I spoke, the crowd parted slightly, revealing a scene that sent shivers through me. In the center of the square, a young woman writhed on the ground, her body convulsing as if caught in the grips of an unseen force. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes rolled back, leaving only the whites visible. The villagers stood back, murmuring in hushed tones, their expressions a cocktail of fear and sorrow. "Sarah!" a woman cried, rushing forward, only to be restrained by a man who looked like her father. "Don't go near her. It's not safe." I approached cautiously, my heart racing. "What's happening to her?" I asked, kneeling beside the girl. "She's possessed," a voice whispered from the crowd, trembling with dread. "We can't help her. No one can." "Let me try," I urged, my own faith beginning to falter as I witnessed the scene unfold. I placed a hand gently on Sarah's forehead, feeling her temperature rise. "In the name of the Father, I command any evil spirit to leave this body." As the words left my lips, Sarah's body twisted violently, a guttural voice escaping her that was not her own. "You think you can save her? You know nothing of the darkness that dwells here." The crowd gasped, stepping back, their faces pale. I felt their fear radiate around me, thickening the air. "I'm here to help," I insisted, trying to hold onto my composure, but doubt crept into my mind. What ancient force had taken hold of this innocent girl? "Leave her be," an elderly woman shouted. "You don't understand our ways. You're just a man of the cloth, blind to the truth." "Please," I pleaded, standing to face the villagers. "Help me understand what's happening. I need to know about Sarah, about the legends you believe in." But their eyes were cold, hardened by years of suffering and distrust. "Legends?" the older man spat. "You think words from a dusty book can save us? Our pain is rooted in the land, in the spirits we've forgotten." Their skepticism stung, igniting a fire within me. I could not abandon them, not now. If there was history buried beneath the surface, I would dig it up. "Then I will learn," I declared, a newfound determination surging through me. "I will seek out the truth, whatever it may be." As the crowd began to disperse, the weight of their skepticism hung in the air. I looked back at Sarah, still twitching on the ground, and knew that my journey had only just begun. I had come to this island to confront darkness, yet I felt the pull of ancient truths calling me, begging to be uncovered. The shadows of the past loomed large, and I was determined to unravel the threads of this mystery, even if it meant confronting the very beliefs that had shaped the island's fate. As I pushed open the heavy wooden door of the old church, the scent of dust and aged paper enveloped me. The dim light filtering through the stained glass created an eerie atmosphere, casting fragmented colors across the stone floor. I could almost hear the whispers of the past echoing through the hallowed halls. I ventured deeper into the archives, determined to uncover the island's hidden history, the key to understanding the demonic possessions that plagued the villagers. I pulled out a worn leather-bound book from a shelf, its spine cracked and pages yellowed with age. Flipping through, I found it filled with entries about the church's past, but as I skimmed the lines, I noticed something unsettling: references to rituals and ceremonies that had been deemed heretical and subsequently erased from collective memory. What have they done? I muttered to myself, my heart racing. The church had not only abandoned these practices, it had actively sought to suppress them, dismissing the beliefs that had once thrived on this island. I felt a chill creep up my spine as I read about the ancient Celtic rituals, their meanings twisted into something dark and unrecognizable. Just as I was lost in thought, the door creaked open and a figure stepped inside. A wiry old man with wild gray hair and spectacles perched precariously on his nose entered. A look of curiosity mingled with concern etched across his face. "Ah, a priest, I see," he said, his voice a mix of amusement and skepticism. "What brings you to these dusty corners?" "Father Michael," I replied, extending my hand. "I'm here to investigate the recent possessions in the village. I think there's more to the island's history than the church acknowledges." He raised an eyebrow, adjusting his glasses. "Elias, at your service. The island's history is a tapestry woven with both light and shadow. Few dare to look too closely at the darker threads." "What do you mean?" I asked, intrigued. Elias stepped closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "The possessions you witness are not merely the work of demons. They are a consequence of the island's forgotten past. The people here once honored their ancestors through rituals the church condemned. When they turned their backs on those practices, they angered the spirits." "Spirits?" I echoed, skepticism creeping back into my mind. "You mean to say that these possessions are linked to ancient pagan beliefs?" "Precisely." He nodded vigorously, his excitement palpable. "The island is steeped in Celtic lore. The very land you walk upon is a battleground of ancient forces, both good and evil. The church may have tried to erase it, but the spirits remember." I took a step back, grappling with the weight of his words. "But how can I help them? The villagers don't trust me, and they certainly don't believe in these old legends." Elias chuckled softly, a knowing glint in his eye. "Trust is earned, Father. You must show them that you seek not to replace their beliefs, but to understand them. Only then can you help free them from the chains of their past." I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair that had clouded my thoughts. "Where do I begin?" "I can guide you, but you must tread carefully. The spirits are restless, and the villagers are terrified. They believe their plight is a punishment for forgetting their ancestors. You may find yourself facing an angry mob if you aren't careful," Elias warned, his tone serious. "I'll take my chances," I said resolutely. "I came here to help, and I won't abandon them now." As I left the archives, the shadows seemed to shift around me, whispering secrets I was yet to uncover. With Elias's words echoing in my mind, I made my way back to the village, my heart pounding with both trepidation and determination. Upon entering the village square, I was met with wary glances and hushed murmurs. The atmosphere was charged, and I could sense the palpable fear among the islanders. Suddenly, a group of villagers stepped forward, their faces contorted in anger. "You should leave," one man shouted, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "You bring nothing but trouble. Our ancestors are angry, and it's your kind who have forsaken them." "I'm here to help," I insisted, my voice steady despite the escalating tension. "I want to understand what's happening and help you find peace." "Peace?" another villager scoffed. "You think the church can save us? It was the church that condemned our ways. You are not welcome here." Panic surged through the crowd, and I felt the weight of their hatred bearing down on me. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I am not here to judge your beliefs. I want to learn about your ancestors, to understand the rituals that once brought you strength. Please, let me help." The crowd remained silent, their expressions unreadable. I could feel Elias's warning echoing in my mind. Trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered. Yet deep within me, a flicker of resolve ignited. I had to find a way to bridge the gap between their ancient beliefs and my faith. Time was running out, and the spirits were growing restless. The wind howled around me as I approached Sarah's family home, a modest structure nestled between the gnarled trees that seemed to lean in, as if eavesdropping on my every step. The air was thick with an unshakable tension, a palpable fear that clung to the villagers like a heavy fog. I knocked hesitantly on the door, my heart racing at the prospect of what I might uncover within. "Who is it?" came a voice, sharp and wary. It was Sarah's mother, Miriam, I recognized from the village square. "It's Father Michael," I replied, trying to inject warmth into my voice. "I'm here to talk about Sarah." There was a pause, and the sound of shuffling footsteps behind the door. Finally, it creaked open, revealing Miriam's anxious face. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she looked as though she hadn't slept in days. "Please come in," she said, stepping aside. I entered the dimly lit room, the scent of damp wood and herbs filling my nostrils. Sarah lay on a small cot in the corner, her body still and pale, the remnants of her earlier convulsions etched on her face. "Is she?" I began, but Miriam shook her head, cutting me off. "She's just resting. It's been days since the last episode," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know how much longer we can take this." I approached Sarah, kneeling beside her. "I want to help," I said, glancing up at Miriam, "but I need to understand what happened to her." "She was always curious about our ancestors," Miriam replied, her voice barely a whisper. "A few nights ago, she insisted on visiting the old stone circle. We told her not to go, but she's stubborn. She performed a ritual, something she found in an old book." "A book?" I asked, intrigued. "What kind of book?" "It belonged to her grandmother," Miriam said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "It spoke of protection and invoking the spirits. We thought it was just old folklore. We didn't believe." The weight of her words hung heavily in the air. "What kind of protection?" I pressed, feeling a knot of dread tightening in my stomach. "Protection from the darkness," Miriam replied, her voice quavering, but instead, it unleashed it. "Sarah said she saw them, the spirits of our ancestors. They demanded a price for their help." A chill ran down my spine. I had read about such practices in the archives, the warnings of consequences for meddling with forces beyond comprehension. Did she mention what the price was? I asked, my mind racing with possibilities. Miriam shook her head, her face pale. "No, but she hasn't been the same since." I stood up, my resolve hardening. "I need to see the stone circle. Maybe I can find answers there." Miriam's expression turned fearful. "Father, you don't understand. The villagers, they believe that the spirits are angry. They think it's your arrival that has awakened them. I have to try," I insisted, feeling an urgency in my chest. "If I can understand what happened, I might be able to help Sarah and the island." Miriam looked torn, but finally nodded. "Just be careful. The storm is approaching." As I stepped outside, the wind picked up, whipping around me as if warning me to turn back. Yet, I pressed on, my footsteps leading me toward the old stone circle that loomed in the distance like a dark sentinel. As I approached, the clouds grew darker, swirling ominously overhead. I could see figures gathering in the clearing, their shadows dancing in the flickering light of torches. My heart raced with trepidation as I realized this was no ordinary gathering. It was a ritual. "Father Michael," a voice called out, and I turned to see Elias rushing toward me, his eyes wide with concern. "You shouldn't be here. They'll blame you for what's happening." "I need to understand," I replied, my voice firm as I gestured toward the gathering. "They're calling the spirits. I have to know what they're invoking." Elias looked hesitant, glancing back at the villagers. "They're desperate. They think they can appease the spirits with offerings, but it's a dangerous game." "Then help me," I urged. "We can't let their fear drive them further into darkness." As I stepped into the circle, the villagers turned to me, their faces a mixture of fear and anger. You bring this curse upon us," one shouted, pointing an accusing finger. "Listen to me." I raised my hands in a gesture of peace. "I'm here to help. We can face this together." But before I could speak further, the wind howled ferociously, and the storm broke loose, rain pummeling the earth as thunder rumbled like a warning. The villagers' chants faltered, and I felt the air thicken with an unseen presence. "Join us, Father," Elias shouted over the chaos. "We need to understand before it's too late." With the storm raging around us, I stepped deeper into the circle, feeling the weight of their gaze upon me. I was no longer just a priest. I was an unwitting participant in a struggle that transcended my understanding of good and evil. If I was to help Sarah and the island, I would have to immerse myself in the very beliefs I had been taught to reject. The battle for the island's soul had begun, and I was at its heart. The night air was thick with tension as I stood at the edge of the clearing, the shadows of ancient trees looming over me like silent sentinels. The villagers had gathered in a circle, their faces illuminated by flickering torches, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the chill that permeated the air. The rhythmic beating of drums echoed through the darkness, calling forth something primal and powerful. I could feel the energy pulsing around us, a raw force that seemed to vibrate in my bones. "Father Michael, are you ready?" Elias's voice broke through my reverie. He stood beside me, his eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and fear. "I don't know what to expect, Elias," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. What if this goes wrong? Then we'll face it together," he replied, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Tonight, you'll learn what they truly believe. You need to understand that this island is not just haunted by spirits. It is alive with stories and memories." As the drumming intensified, I stepped into the circle, feeling the weight of the villagers' gazes upon me. They had been skeptical of my presence since I arrived, but now I was determined to earn their trust. The air crackled with anticipation, and I could sense that something significant was about to unfold. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, her presence commanding and ethereal. It was Aisling, the spirit I had heard whispered about in hushed tones. Her long, flowing hair danced like smoke around her, and her eyes glimmered with an otherworldly light. I felt a surge of fear and awe as she approached me, her gaze piercing through my very soul. "You, Father," she began, her voice both melodic and haunting. "You come with intentions weighed down by your faith, but do you truly understand what you seek?" "I seek to help the people of this island," I replied, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the tremor of my heart. "Help?" Aisling echoed, a hint of amusement curling her lips. "Or are you here to impose your beliefs upon those who have long embraced the ways of the earth and sky?" I swallowed hard, knowing that her words held a kernel of truth. The church had long sought to eradicate what it deemed heresy, but I had begun to see that the island's ancient beliefs were woven into its very fabric. "I want to understand," I said, pleadingly. "I want to heal the rift that exists between your world and mine." "Then you must confront your own demons," she replied, her tone shifting from playful to serious. "You carry the weight of your ancestors, Father. The blood of this land flows through you, whether you acknowledge it or not." Before I could respond, the world around me blurred, and visions began to wash over me. I saw scenes of the island's past, vibrant and terrible, a time when the people revered nature, when the old gods were honored and celebrated. But then came the church, with its fervent zeal and condemnation, casting aside centuries of tradition in favor of blind faith. I felt the anguish of the villagers as they lost their connection to the land, their cries echoing through time like a haunting melody. "Do you see?" Aisling's voice penetrated the visions. "This is the legacy of your church, Father. The darkness that plagues your people is born of your own making." Tears welled in my eyes as the weight of the truth crashed over me. "I never intended for any harm to come to them," I protested, my voice breaking. "I thought I was saving them." Saving? Or suffocating? Aisling's expression softened, and for a moment, I glimpsed the sorrow behind her fierce exterior. "You must find balance, Father. The past cannot be erased, nor can it be ignored." Just then, a commotion erupted at the edge of the clearing. Panic surged through the crowd as a local boy, one of the youngest villagers, was nowhere to be found. "Where is Liam?" a woman screamed, her voice tinged with desperation. "He was just here." The atmosphere shifted from introspection to chaos in an instant. The villagers began calling out his name, their fear palpable as they fanned out into the darkness. "Father!" Elias shouted, his face a mask of concern. "We need to help them." I nodded, my heart racing as I joined the search. As we moved through the trees, I could feel Ashling's presence lingering, her energy intertwining with the frantic pulse of the villagers. Where could he have gone? I muttered, my mind racing. He was just here. Perhaps he wandered too close to the stones, Elias suggested, glancing nervously at the ancient structure that loomed in the distance. The spirits are restless tonight. A chill ran down my spine as the implications of his words settled in. Whatever darkness had taken hold of the island now threatened the very lives of its children. With each step, I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me, the realization that perhaps I was more entwined with this place than I had ever imagined. "Liam," I called into the darkness, hoping against hope that my voice would reach him. The search was on, and I could feel the threads of fate tightening around us, pulling us toward a destiny I could scarcely comprehend. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow over the ancient stone circle. As I approached, the air thickened with an unnamable tension. The villagers had gathered around the stones, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of torches, eyes wide with both fear and determination. I could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, a palpable reminder of the task that lay ahead. "Father Michael!" a voice called out from the crowd. It was Elias, his expression a mix of worry and urgency. "The boy, he's in there." I followed his gaze, my heart racing as I spotted the child at the center of the circle. He was entranced, his small body swaying gently as if caught in a current of invisible energy. Around him, spectral figures danced with an otherworldly grace, their forms flickering like candle flames. I steadied my breath, grasping the rosary in my pocket, feeling the familiar beads beneath my fingers. "Get back," I shouted, signaling to the villagers to maintain their distance. "We need to approach this carefully." "What do you mean?" a woman cried out, her voice trembling. "He's in danger. We have to save him." "I know," I replied, my voice firm, "but we mustn't provoke the spirits. They're not our enemies, not yet. They're simply lost." As I stepped into the circle, the air crackled with energy. The spectral figures turned their attention to me, their faces obscured by shadows, but I could feel their eyes upon me, judging, waiting. I focused on the boy, who appeared oblivious to the chaos surrounding him. "Daniel," I called, trying to reach him through the haze of enchantment. "Can you hear me?" For a moment, there was silence. Then, he blinked slowly, as if awakening from a deep slumber. "Father Michael?" His voice was small, almost lost in the wind. "Yes, Daniel. You need to come back to us. You're safe. Just take my hand." Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the depths of the circle, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. The spectral figures began to swirl faster, their movements becoming erratic. "Stay back," I shouted again, raising my arms defensively. "I'm here to help." The spirit known as Ashling materialized before me, her form shimmering with an ethereal light. "You do not understand, priest," she spoke, her voice a melodic whisper that seemed to resonate with the very stones beneath our feet. "He is chosen. The boy is a vessel, a bridge between worlds." "Chosen for what?" I demanded, my heart pounding. "To be a pawn in your ancient games? To be the savior of this island," she replied, her eyes piercing through me. "But only if he embraces his fate. You, Father, must decide if you will guide him or lead him to ruin." The weight of her words settled heavily in my chest, and I felt the ground beneath me tremble. "Daniel, you must fight this," I urged, stepping closer to the child. "You are not just a vessel. You are a boy with a future. You don't have to accept this." "I can feel them, Father," Daniel murmured, his voice distant, almost dreamlike. "They want me to join them. They say I can help everyone." "No," I shouted, my voice echoing within the circle. "You can help them without sacrificing yourself. You are more than this." The spectral figures began to close in, their forms shifting like smoke. I could feel their desperation, their longing for recognition and remembrance. They were the forgotten, the lost souls of a time when their beliefs were honored, not shunned. Leave him be, I cried, raising my hands in a plea. He belongs to the living. Ashling's gaze softened, and for a brief moment, I saw the pain behind her fierce countenance. You cannot erase our history, priest. It is woven into the fabric of this land. Either you help him embrace it, or you doom him to be trapped forever. A chill ran through me as I realized the depth of her words. This wasn't merely about Daniel. It was about the island itself, its past, its spirits, and the church's long-held denial of its own history. Daniel, I said again, lowering my voice to a soothing tone, listen to me. You have the strength to choose your own path. Don't let them take that from you. As I spoke, I could see the struggle within him, the battle between the call of the spirits and the love of his family. The flames flickered wildly, illuminating the fierce determination in his young eyes. I want to go home, he finally said, his voice breaking through the ethereal fog. Then come back to us, I urged, reaching out my hand, desperate for him to take it. But just as his small fingers brushed against mine, the spirits surged forward, howling in anguish, and I braced myself for the confrontation ahead. The path to salvation was fraught with uncertainty, and I could only hope that my faith, and Daniel's will, would be enough to break the chains binding him to the past. As I knelt at the edge of the ancient stone circle, my heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. The air was heavy with an otherworldly energy, the spectral figures swirling around the entranced boy like a dark mist. I could feel the weight of Ashling's presence pressing down on me, a reminder of the collective pain and memories of the island. What do you want from him? I shouted, my voice trembling as I tried to maintain my composure. The boy's eyes were glazed over, and he didn't respond. Instead, the echoes of the past filled my mind, visions of the island's tragic history flashing before my eyes, images of ancient rituals, of ancestors pleading for peace, and of the church's oppressive hand silencing their cries. I struggled to separate my faith from the very real, palpable history that surrounded me. Ashling, I called out, my voice firm despite the doubt that gnawed at me. You must let him go. He is not your vessel. A chilling laugh reverberated through the air, and the figures began to coalesce into a single, imposing form. Ashling appeared before me, her ethereal figure shimmering like moonlight on water. You misunderstand, Father, she said, her voice hauntingly melodic. He is not just a vessel, he is a bridge between what was and what can be. You cannot save him without understanding what you are truly fighting against. What do you mean? I replied, desperation creeping into my tone. This isn't right. They're scared, and I can't let you take him. Scared? Ashling echoed, her eyes piercing into my soul. They have feared their own history, Father. They cast aside their past, and now it haunts them. You too fear it. Suddenly, the villagers emerged from the shadows, their faces twisted in anger and betrayal. You've betrayed us, a woman shouted, stepping forward, her fists clenched. You think you can conquer our spirits with your prayers and rituals? You are one of them now, a servant of the church that has forsaken us. I'm trying to help, I pleaded, my voice rising above their accusations. I've come to understand your pain, to reconcile the old ways with my faith. Your faith? A man scoffed, stepping closer, his eyes aflame with rage. Your faith is a lie. It has led to our suffering. I could feel the walls closing in, the weight of their anger and sorrow crashing down on me. I am not your enemy, I said, my voice trembling. I have discovered things about myself, about this island, that I never knew. I am connected to this land, to you. A hush fell over the crowd, confusion flickering in their eyes. What do you mean? Sarah's mother asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What are you saying? I hesitated, the truth clawing at my throat. I am a descendant of the original inhabitants. My ancestors, they walked these lands long before the church came. I am part of this history, part of the pain. Gasps rippled through the crowd. You lie, another villager shouted. but I could see the doubt creeping into their eyes. "No," I cried, my heart pounding. "It's true. I can feel their memories coursing through me. Aisling is not just a spirit. She is a manifestation of everything this island has endured, and I am here to confront it." The villagers exchanged glances, uncertainty mingling with their anger. "You expect us to believe you?" the angry man hissed. "I know it's hard," I said, my voice softening. "But together, we can heal. We can honor our ancestors and protect our future." Aisling's presence loomed, her form shifting as if the very air around her was alive with energy. "You must choose, Father," she said, her voice echoing in my mind. "Your faith or your heritage. One will save the island, the other will doom it." I stood at the center of the stone circle, torn between two worlds. The villagers looked to me for guidance, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground, a new, ominous presence began to emerge on the horizon, a dark silhouette that threatened to engulf us all. I took a deep breath, my heart heavy with the weight of the choice before me. I was a priest, but I was also a son of this land, and I had to reconcile both sides within me. The fate of the island rested in my hands. Would I wield my faith like a shield, or would I embrace the bloodline that called to me from the depths of history?